So Ravinda, genets and civets are not the same, two different animals. A civet is a much larger individual than what a genet is. Genet's more sleek and slender, whereas a civet has kind of got this bowed back. There's a warthog, that's not a wild dog. I thought for a second it was a wild dog popping out, but it is not a wild dog. Now the dog the last I saw was here in this section, kind of bounding around. Whether it went left or right, I can't tell for 100% sure. But no sign of doggies now. Let's just quickly check one more time at Treehouse Dam. We know dogs like water and chase things towards water, and they use it to cool themselves down when they've been running a lot. So let's just go double check there one more time. If there's nothing, then I'm going to go back to Hukumuri and just sit tight with him and hope that I hear something for the dogs, or maybe even see the dogs coming past, and we'll be able to then find what's going on. Now I believe Scotty's going to come give us a hand, which is great news. So Scotty, if Scotty can maybe check north of us, so up Weaver's Nest side, and that would be a good idea. Taxton's going to check to the south of us. We're going to go through the middle. We've got a three-pronged attack that's taking place here, which is going to be wonderful news, because I think they've lost Tundi, so it'll help if we've got Scotty with us as well. Like I said, the problem with dogs though is they just go so quickly. It's impossible to kind of keep up with them. So Nikki, yes, you can tell Scott just north of Treehouse, so check Weaver's Nest, Pangolin Track, Philemon's, those areas should be good places. Nothing at Treehouse Dam that I can see. Oh, wild dogs, where are you? The thing is, it was only just the one that we saw, and finding one wild dog is, well, finding a pack of dogs is a nightmare. Finding one is just near impossible. But I don't see its tracks coming this way, so maybe it went more northwards. I don't know. Scotty's going to check north of us, so maybe he'll get lucky on that side. So, sorry Nix, if you can just repeat that. The wind is blowing a little bit. I just heard something about wild dogs most powerful. What is the wild dog's most powerful sense from Proud Cat Mama? Well, the most powerful sense on a dog probably is their sense of hearing. Their eyesight is pretty good, but their hearing is probably their best asset, and you can tell generally what the best asset in terms of senses are on an animal by the size of it. So if you've got the size of the ears are much larger on a wild dog than its eyes or its nose, and so its ears should theoretically be its best and most viable option. But obviously you can have a situation, if you look at something like a lion or a leopard, their eyes, ears and noses are all very similar in kind of size, so they rely on all three of them. But in the case of elephants, you know, their hearing is immaculate and very, very good, and they've got big ears. Kudu, they rely on their hearing a lot, big ears, and so wild dogs is their hearing more than anything else. Right, let's repeat what we did just now, Fergus, because then there'll be a wild dog that will run across the road here. So Julie, yes, wild dogs are also called painted dogs or painted wolves. They are known as painted wolves more than painted dogs, but yes, they are known as that as well. So this is where we saw it, just bounding here and then going almost down that way. I wonder if the rest of the pack wasn't hunting south of it, and that's why it ran in that direction. I think let's just go back to Hukumuri for now though, and then we can listen and hear. Maybe I get lucky and we can pick up them on a kill or some chattering close by. That would be quite nice. It would certainly make my day to have the doggies as well. But it just goes to show you never know what's going to happen, and there was no sign of these wild dogs this morning. All of a sudden they just kind of burst out of nowhere. Hukumuri seems as though he's in absolute chill mode at the moment, so he's not too perturbed. Obviously the dogs haven't come back this way because, as you can see with him, he's very much asleep at the moment. Ferg, is that okay for you? There we go. So Fergus should have a good shot. So it means that the dogs, I think, have run past probably, and we've probably seen the last of them in this particular section. They might have moved off a little bit, and hopefully Scotty will have more luck than what we've had in relocating them. But what an epic way to spend a morning. It's all kind of happening. Maybe not. Maybe the dogs are back coming this way. If they pick up the scent of the kill, I wouldn't be surprised they move in this direction. Dogs like to traumatize leopards, especially if they're in big packs. They'll often push leopards into trees, but he's looking around and so kind of having a watchful eye on what's going on, and he's looking in the direction that we last saw those dogs. So let's just kind of be patient. Like I say, maybe the dogs do a loop and end up coming back around into this section and we actually get to see them again. You never know. He's certainly looking in those directions and keeping a beady eye on what's going on, and his eyes certainly are quite menacing. So if any wild dog comes, maybe they'll get a little bit kind of petrified by the fact that this male is staring at them, and he'll get away with it. But who knows? It's going to be interesting to see. Like I say, there was a pack of 18 yesterday somewhere in this northern sector. I don't quite know where, but there was a pack of 8, so I would surmise that it's the same pack. Obviously it might be a different one. We know that there's the pack of 3, the lower Sabi pack, that moves around, which is very difficult to find them. And then there's a couple of other packs that we have, and lots of distribution of dogs at the moment. So who knows? I mean, there could be just a one lone dog running around, but I think that in all likelihood it's probably the pack of 8 that is here. Now, of course, there would be one branch straight across his face. That is how these things go. Ferg, you know what? I'm going to just remove us slightly because the branch across his face is ridiculous. And so I'm going to try and just get Ferg in a slightly better area, because if I go round this other little bush here, I should have a situation where I can kind of get Ferg around the bush and therefore through the gap a little bit better. So if we go somewhere like this, Ferg. Oh, hold on. I just don't want to get hit. There we go. Right, now while I try and get myself into a better spot for Fergus, let's send you back across to Scotty for an update and see what he's up to on his side of the world.
Well, we ended up getting ditched by Tundi, so we thought we would just race into this area and give Tristan a hand to try and work out what these wild dogs are doing and where they're going. So no tracks just yet. We're checking to the north of where Tristan had a visual, and obviously Tristan's got a feeling that they were moving in this direction. It's quite a big block though to our left, so they could still be off to our left, or they could already be way ahead of us. It's one of the tricky things with wild dogs, is they move such big distances at such high speeds, and they change direction very often too. So tricky customers to track down, but very exciting prospects that at least we can have a chance of spotting them. And hopefully Tristan will manage to get you some more good views of the Hukumuri male. We've been absolutely spoilt this morning with great leopard scenes, and it'll be the cherry on the cake if we get some wild dogs to top it off. No tracks coming through here. So, what to do? Well, we'll keep snooping about. Like I said, they could still be off to our left in quite a big block. They've come across some food, or maybe they're just wanting to relax for a bit. The variables are endless, but we'll continue our search and send you back up to Brent for an update.
Welcome back. We are looking for the proverbial spotted needle in one of the largest haystacks in the world. The southern place of the Masai Mara. I was very excited a little while ago. I thought I spotted the cheetah, but it turned out to be a secretary bird just popping its head out of the grass. And if they go flat now, I mean, the chances of finding them are very, very minimal, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to try. I just can't believe how quickly this grass has grown. Now, I'm almost sort of hoping to see a tail flash out of the grass, which is the most likely way to spot them. And as I said, that's only when they're moving. If they're moving, dearie me. Now, I did see something very, very exciting. I'm trying to see if I can find another one at the moment. Not to most people, unless you like feathered creatures. I saw a blue swallow, which is quite a rare bird, and very, very interesting how they never used to come to the Mara, but because of pressure from humans on the edge of Lake Victoria and the grasslands that are there that have now been converted into to farmland, the blue swallows have actually almost changed their migratory pattern. So they nest in southern Tanzania, in the Nyika, oh not the Nyika, sorry, they do nest in the Nyika Plateau, but that's between Zambia and Malawi, and some of those birds actually come all the way up here. But most of the birds that come here come from the southern highlands around Mfundi in Tanzania, where they nest almost exclusively in aardvark burrows, on the top of aardvark burrows. But then when they finish nesting, they go across and they spend a lot of time feeding over Lake Victoria, and then on their way down they used to stop at these different grass areas, and the problem is that the grass area they used to spend a lot of time at close to Lake Victoria has now been decimated. So in the last couple of years we've suddenly started, I saw them last year, but it's only in the last sort of 3 or 4 years that you've started seeing them in the Mara. Now, an endangered species, so I'm hoping we can spot another one, but I haven't seen them since March was the last blue swallow I saw. So very, very exciting, and I've never seen them here before. I've only seen them in three other spots: the Salt Lake, Ngarari, and just below Ngarari is the only place I've seen them before. So this is very exciting, and I'll put that report through to the Kenya Rare Bird Association, and they'll put a little ping on the map. So that's quite exciting. Now, I'm sorry, I forgot. I was so excited about blue swallows. Someone was asking, do we get crows in the Mara? Indeed, we do. We get pine crows in the Mara, indigenous crowing. We see them more in Christina. There we go. We see them more around the Talek area. We do see them occasionally in the triangle, but not very often. Oh no, that's just a normal swallow. Come on, blue swallow, cheetah. Well, we need a blue swallow sitting on a cheetah's head. That would be something. I'm just desperate to see a kitty this morning. Maybe it will be in the afternoon, who knows? For Scott and Tristan before the drive. That is... Oh, that's my fault, Nicola. That's my fault. That's my fault. It fell. I'll stop. So, as I said, okay, let me answer Anna Marie's question first. Anna Marie's question is, do I know where Amani and her 2 daughters are? I'm not sure where Amani is. Her 2 daughters have split, and so one is in Mara North Conservancy, so north of the Musiara Marsh, and the other is still hanging between around the Paradise Plain, where we used to see them together quite often. And Amani, I'm not sure where she is at the moment. I haven't heard from her in a while. She could be out in the conservancies. No, just another European or barn swallow. I'll spot them again, the blues. Now, the challenge for Tristan and Scott, it could be the second battle of the beards for the morning, is that I think, since I did a dance, they should both do a dance. What do you guys think? I think the Battle of the Beards dance-off should be the next competition between Tristan and Scott. Hashtag Safari Live. Let's pressurize them into doing a dance. Speaking of that, let's see what my good friend Tristan thinks about his dance that he's going to do for you a little later.
Brent Leo Smith, as much as I would love to do these things, we have more serious and pressing matters at hand, which is finding wild dogs and leopards. So at the moment I'm a bit busy, and your dance will have to wait to another time. Unfortunately, we are not like you, where we are having a bit of a drought with the animals up in the Mara. So we've got lots of animals around, and so we're busy looking for those because, well, that's part of our job, is to try and find animals. Now, Hukumuri has disappeared on us. He came down into the drainage again, and I've lost him. I don't know where he's gone, so I'm busy trying to relocate him and try and see what's going on and see whether or not he's maybe crunching on his kill somewhere. So we're just going to keep quiet for a little bit and just listen. Don't hear him even. I wonder if he's not directly below me here. because where his carcass was yesterday when we saw him is straight in front. So this little tree over here is where he was, but I can't see any sign of him. No, it's far too deep and too kind of rough to even see anything. Nothing up that side. I wonder if he maybe hasn't gone further towards where we first started with him this morning. So obviously the problem is I also don't want to go too close. If the kill is down in there, the last thing we want to do is park on top of this leopard and stress him. Okay, let's go along a little bit and just check if I can't find him somewhere. The last I saw him, he was coming down the slope back to where we had him lying originally. So that was where he was kind of heading. But I don't know where he's gone now. He's proving to be quite tough in this area. It's also obviously not an easy place to negotiate, so I suppose that's half of the problem. But while I try and see if I can find him again and see where he's drifted to, let's send you back over to Scotty D and see what's happening and whether or not he is having any luck with the wild dogs.
I'm certainly not having any luck just yet, and I'm beginning to doubt whether Tristan actually did see a wild dog or if he just saw something like a duiker run past and get confused. I'm only kidding, but we haven't seen one singular paw print of a wild dog, so that's the reason why I'm doubting Tristan's sighting. Now, there is a chance that, you know, one dog has been separated from its pack, and Tristan's telling me not to be like Brent and just to believe him. I do believe Tristan, and I'm just surprised by the fact that we haven't found tracks, because if there was a whole pack moving through this area, we would have thought we would have seen one footprint, but maybe it's just a loner. Now, I'm told that Brent has been urging you to urge me and Tristan, or Tristan and I, to dance for you. And I think that's a terrible idea, and I don't know what's got into Brent. I don't even know why he thought it was a good idea for him to put you through watching him dance, because he's not much of a mover nor a shaker. So I think we should just cancel that and stick to what we know and what we're good at. Dancing certainly is something that I am not talented at. It would actually be disturbing for you. I feel my joints are kind of rusted and not fluid enough to dance. I've tried many tricks, many potions to help lubricate one's body into a more, at least what one thinks is a more rhythmic state, but it's never pretty when I dance. Now, impala are ahead of us, and a kudu here, and they're looking like they are possibly, are they relaxed, or are they in shock after being chased by wild dogs? No, these guys look absolutely peaceful and calm. So it doesn't seem like Tristan's imaginary friends have made it through this area, but the Hukumuri male leopard has got itself out and about, just like this big male waterbuck. So we will send you back to Tristan.
The dog's going to come back here. It's Scotty D. There's no imaginary friends. I have witness who can testify to the fact that there was a wild dog, and I know the difference between a wild dog and a duiker. I know I'm going a bit scatty and getting old these days, but I do know at least the difference between those two, and it's fine. They're going to show up back here again, and I'm going to get them on camera, and then you guys are all going to be feeling bad about making fun of me. Anyway, we managed to Hukumuri this morning. He's kind of up and down and in and out and round and about, and he just doesn't want to seem to settle anywhere. But at least we've got some sort of view of him now, the top of his head, as he's decided to go back into the drainage line to have a little bit of a nap and a bit of a sleep. So he's back into the same spot. It's very close to where we first had him, but he's kind of very well hidden by that grass. And so I'm hoping that what happens is he comes and lies out a little bit, because there's a nice sort of open sandy patch that is damp sand, which must be nice and cool, and so if he goes and lies there, that's going to be a lot better for us. Also, I hope, like I say, that the dogs come back, because anytime dogs and leopards are together, it's always a good thing. Scott says it's reverse karma, that this is what's going to happen, is that we're not going to prove him wrong. I don't know, I didn't get most of that, but anyway, Scotty, I hope that Scott finds them. I really do. That's what I'm hoping for, is that Scott manages to pick them up and that they kind of are in the road. Like I say, it was just one dog that we saw, so the chances of finding one dog again when it's at full speed across a road is not going to be very easy. I'm just hoping he picks up the rest of the pack and that dog then joins. Eileen, I agree. Scotty D needs to do his dance to bring them out. He does a very good wild dog dance. Just now he was telling you all that he doesn't know how to dance, but he's lying. He's got this wild dog dance that he does sometimes, and it definitely works. The last time we saw the wild dog, Scotty had done his wild dog dance the night before, telling us that the dogs would come. So he's lying to you if he tells you that he doesn't know how to dance and that he doesn't know what he's doing, because he's got a serious set of feet on him, and even Fred Astaire would be jealous of Scott Dyson's wild dog display. What do you think, Ferg?
Scott is basically just like Michael Jackson.
Scott is like Michael Jackson. There we go. He's that good, and we just need to give him a white glove and some shoes, and off he goes. He can go and do his dog dance, and hopefully the doggies will come out. I, of course, can't do any dance because obviously I'm sitting with a leopard, and that would disturb the leopard, so that rules me out for now.
Disturb me too.
And it would disturb you as well, Fergus. That is very true, because unlike many other members of our team, my feet are both left feet, and therefore do not work well when it comes to dancing and doing these things. Unfortunately, it's just a mess that takes place, so there will be none of that from me, and we don't want to. We've just seen Hukumuri arriving onto Djuma, and we certainly don't want to scar him for the rest of his life with a image of me dancing, and well, Fergus as well. I put Fergus through enough. I've fallen out of a car with Fergus, which meant he almost fell out of a car, and so I don't think I can scar Fergus any more than what I already have in my short time. But I think our male leopard is going to be just sitting, taking it very easy now. And the dogs kind of woke him up for a little bit. He had a little look around, realized that not much was going on, and back down for a bit of a nap. I wonder, maybe though, just thinking about it, I wonder if those dogs maybe didn't grab some of this carcass or something like that, because he came from the direction that these dogs came from. And like I say, Battalier eagles, which is generally an indication of some sort of food. So I wonder if maybe, just maybe, some of his kudu kill was stolen by the dogs, and that's why he kind of came from that area. I'm not 100% sure. It's difficult to say, but it's interesting that he kind of hasn't fed this morning, and we can't see any sign of this carcass. But his behavior going back and forth, I suppose, indicates that there is a carcass here somewhere, and that he is still feeding on something, because he wouldn't be coming back to the same spot every time if there wasn't food here for him. Amazing though, the camouflage. Like I say, if you came whizzing past here and doing your normal driving routine, and even driving slowly at 10-20 kilometers an hour, to spot that would be almost impossible. You'd have to really know that there's a leopard in there, otherwise you've got no chance. His spots just break up his outline, and the sort of thickness of the drainage and the dappled light that's coming through here means that there really is just absolutely no way that we would see them. And it begs the question, how many times do we drive past leopards that are just like this? Probably more than we even know. Right, so now I believe Scott has stretched, he's warmed up, he's got his sweatbands on, he's shined his shoes, and he's ready to do his wild dog dance. So let's send you over to him and see what he's got to say for himself.
Very funny, Tristan. And I can assure you all that unless I was forcibly pressured into a dance-off, it will not happen forever. So, at ease. If any of you were getting excited about the prospects of me dancing, I apologize, as it will not happen. So we're just kind of extending our search of Tristan's so-called wild dogs, Still not a track has been seen, not one. There's two of us searching the area, not just myself. There's another vehicle that's coming here, and we're both questioning whether or not Tristan was imagining things. And to be honest, there'd be nothing wrong if Tristan just came out now and said, you know guys, I just wasn't sure, but it could have been a wild dog. Then we'd be like, cool Trist, you were trying your best. Everyone makes mistakes. Alrighty, so I'm also kind of wondering where Tundi has gone, having left that area so quickly in the hope that we would find wild dogs. I'm wondering if we shouldn't go back there and scratch around for her. Anyway, we're going to continue through this area, which is actually the very area Hukumuri was found yesterday.
Well, welcome back. We are still traveling through a sea of grass with not much luck. Now, I am hoping that we're heading towards the Egyptian goose pride territory. But in the grass, I'm sleeping under one of these fig trees, also known as picnic trees. So there's quite a few picnic spots around here, and the lions like to picnic under these trees as well. So hopefully they are around. But I see Scott and Tristan are far too serious to do a dance. I'm quite disappointed in them. I think Taylor would have done a dance. So would have Jamie. James definitely would have done a dance. Probably would have done two. Okay, now let's have a look under these fig trees, and fingers crossed that there's some cats about. I haven't seen the gooses in quite a long time. We've been focusing more on Talek and Musiara and the top of the triangle. Sorry about that, Nicola. Comms broke up there a little bit. We are climbing a hill, so let's know the come on kitties, be under the fig trees. Even better, be in the fig trees climbing. So sometimes in this our radio comms are a little bit sketchy, so I'm just going to speed up a little bit to get to the top of the hill. Jules, I'm sure your question was amazing. I can't wait to answer it when I can hear it. So far, no lions under the trees. We've still got about 5 more to go though. Jules wants to know, do the big cats ever get hairballs? Indeed they do, but their hairballs are far more gross than a little cat's hairballs, because it is filled with bone and horn and hoof, and so yes, they do get hairballs. Come on, how many fig trees have we got left? After this one, 1, 2, 3, 4 left, 5 left to go. Still no sign of the big cats under the big figs. It's been an interesting... Ooh, hello. Let's see where they land. Okay. They've landed in this fig. They sometimes can be quite hard to spot because they are brilliantly green coloured birds. Let's see if we can spot them. They landed in this fig tree somewhere. Now, I love the sound these birds make. They're African green pigeons, but sometimes they are difficult to spot. For me, they sound like a sort of an old 1980s Bond villain's computer that's about to unleash mass destruction on the world. Now, we can't spot them, but what I can do is play you what I think a 1970s probably Bond villain computer should sound like. There we go. Pigeon. You find them? Oh, they're somewhere in there. Okay. Now that for me is a computer that's about to just unleash disaster on the world before 007 arrives. Apparently, while I was fiddling around trying to find the call, one did fly out. Alas. Well, let's keep moving. We've still got 3 more figs to check for lions as it gets warmer in the day. The wind has started to pick up. It's trying to take my hat off. But it looks like the Egyptian goose pride is somewhere in the grasses. They could be in the valleys we just came through. But as I say, quite challenging at this time of the long grass. Oh dearie me, no lions under that one either. Okay, well I try find my first cat of the drive. We're across to Tristan, who's going to say hello to a brand new school who's joining us for the first time.
Indeed we are, Brent. It is a very, very warm welcome to DPS Siddharth Vihar from India. It's wonderful to have you all with us. I hope that you are going to have the most wonderful time with us. Remember that you can ask lots and lots of questions about any of the African animals, and you can do that by sending it through to your teacher, and your teacher will then send it all the way to us, and we'll try and answer as many as possible. Now, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Fergus, so there we go. Now, we're sitting with a beautiful male leopard. So there's a male leopard that is in the bushes down below, and we've had him here for the last sort of 24 hours, and the reason why he's here and hidden in this thick bush is because he has a kill inside here. So he managed to kill a antelope called a kudu. Now, a kudu is a medium-sized antelope, so it's probably a little larger than some of the deer that you guys get in India, and so it's a perfect prey animal for a leopard, especially a little baby kudu, because baby kudus are much smaller and much easier to grab. And so he's killed it, and then he's dragged it into this thicket so that none of the other predators that are here can find it. So things like hyenas, wild dogs, lions, and other leopards won't be able to smell the smell of the kill down in the riverbed system, and so it's a perfect place for him to hide away and to be able to keep his kill out of the way of those predators. It's also good because it's shady and it's nice and cool down there. Here in Africa, we're in our summer and it is hot at the moment. We can get days that go up to 40 degrees Celsius, and so inside this drainage line we've had a bit of rain recently, and the sand inside there is nice and damp, and that with the shade means it's very cool to lie there, and that's why he's in there, is to try and lie down. Now you can see he's having a bit of a grooming session. This is often the case with the leopards. They like to groom themselves and they like to get themselves nice and clean. This particular male has got a few ticks on him because it's summer, and summer the ticks breed and they get much more, and so there's a few ticks, and that's what he's busy doing, is he's scratching, trying to get rid of the ticks, as well as using his rough tongue to clean his coat and make sure that he gets himself into really good condition. So it's a perfect way for a leopard to get himself kind of nice and clean, and it's the way they basically shower, much like how we would scrub ourselves with a brush. They just use their claws and their tongue to be able to do it. But there you go, you can see he's kind of stood up now, and he's going to scratch the side of his head, but hopefully him standing up is going to mean that he moves a little bit more into the open, because at the moment he's very well hidden inside this thicket. And that's why they're so difficult to find, is because leopards often like to lie in places like this. It's so hard to see them. You can imagine if he lies down properly, and you'll see now when he walks, look at how his coat just disappears behind those bushes. You see how it becomes very difficult to see him? It's almost impossible. It looks as though he just blends in, and that's why he's got that spotted coat, is because those black markings just break up his outline and make it much harder for us to be able to see him. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just reposition ourselves and park in a slightly different place, because I think we'll be able to see him quite nicely, although he's looking as though he might move. But if we just move slightly, we might have a situation where we can actually see his whole body, not behind all the trees, but right out into the open. You see, look, he's going to lie down hopefully there, and we just need to put ourselves slightly differently, and we're going to be able to see him really nicely. So I'm going to move quickly and just get you into a better spot. Now, hold on. Let me go around quickly. I'm going to just go around because I think we're going to have a much better opportunity to see him from around this little bush. There's a really nice spot that's quite open that we should be able to see his whole body, I think. I might be wrong, and we might have to come back to where we were, but we might get this right. Now remember that you must ask lots and lots of questions. We love to hear from you, so don't forget to ask lots. And while you're thinking about your questions about this leopard, I'm going to send you to my friend Scott, who's out and about not very far from where I am, and he's looking for some wild dogs.
Yes, I'm looking for some other animals while Tristan is with that leopard. And haven't you guys got off to a good start? My name is Scott, and it's great to have all the new school kids on safari with us. Like Tristan said, I'm looking for some animals called wild dogs, and Tristan got a glimpse of them running past the leopard where he was earlier, and hoping that we're going to get lucky and find them for you. If not, maybe we'll be able to find some other animals. There's lots of animals that we can see here. Maybe some elephants if we're lucky, but only time will tell. It's a large area where animals can go wherever they like and do whatever they like. So we basically don't know what is waiting for us around the next corner, and that is one of the most exciting things about being on safari. It's not like going to the zoo where you know all the animals will be and where you'll be able to see them. Here you've got to have a little bit more patience and a lot of luck to sometimes find the animals. It's getting nice and warm now, so I'm hoping that some of the water holes may provide us with some animals. And there's another beautiful big animal that I've just spotted up ahead of us, so let's stop here and show you what we have found. Unlike the leopard that you saw with Tristan that you do find in India, you definitely don't find these guys in your home country. A massive giraffe. He's a big daddy, and we can tell he's a big daddy because those two funny little horns on his head have got no hair on top of them. So just like old men that go bald, so do those funny little horns on the top of the giraffe's head for the men. Beautiful. Now if you look at the door to your classroom, that's probably about 2 meters high, and this giraffe is probably about 2.5 to 3 of those doors on top of one another, so about 5 to 6 meters tall. Very, very high up, and it's got a great way of being able to spot any sneaky animals like lions and leopards because it is so tall. But so it's disappeared behind a bush, so we're going to continue on and send you back to Tristan, whose leopard is out in a spot where I think you can have a good view.
It is out from the bush, but he's gone back to sleep, and you can see he's got a really big full belly, and that's because he's been eating his kudu over the last couple of days, and so he's fed nicely, and that means his tummy is really swollen. And the problem with a very swollen tummy is that you can see, look how much he's breathing. He's breathing quite fast, and so it's not because he's sick, it's because his stomach is so full, it pushes up on his lungs, and it means he's only able to take a little bit of air. So he breathes and is short breaths because there's too much pressure on the lungs from the bottom, and his diaphragm is being pushed up, and the lungs can't expand as big as they normally can, and so that's why he's breathing. The other side of it is because he's hot. As his body is trying to break down all of these proteins inside of the tummy that he's eaten, and the meat, it uses a lot of energy, and that causes this to get really kind of hot, and so panting helps to be able to cool him down. And so what I'm talking about when I say panting is that it's very quick breaths that he's taking, And he does that with his mouth open. And what happens is, inside your mouth that you have saliva and it's wet inside there. And so as he's breathing, the hot air coming out is causing the moisture in his mouth, or the water inside his mouth, to evaporate. And so it causes it, as it evaporates, that causes cooling. And the cooling then cools the blood in the tongue and in the mouth. And that cooler blood is then pushed back into the body. And it's how the cats cope with being in hot environments. And so why we can see cats in both India and in South Africa, or Africa in general, that they can cope with these hot African or Indian days that we have all over the place. So it really is a clever system for big cats to have, and it is needed, otherwise they wouldn't be able to live in these environments. But he is really having a good sleep, and this is what leopards do when they've got a kill and when they've fed, is that they have a really good nap. And the reason why they sleep a lot is because at the end of the day they're quite active animals, and they use a lot of energy when they are hunting. So they'll chase something, and that uses lots and lots of energy. So when they're not hunting and not scent marking and patrolling territory, it's good for them to rest and just to keep that energy, because they don't know when their next meal is going to come. So they try and use every little bit of energy and then sleep when they can to. Biodare, you're wondering what is the best time of the year for a jungle safari? Well, unfortunately, I don't really know the answer to that, because here in South Africa, we don't have a jungle. So we've got what we call a savanna. Now, savanna is the environment that we're in, which is basically really good grassland mixed with a whole bunch of trees that makes a perfect environment for our animals to survive. And the best time of the year for a safari is, well, any time of the year. And I'll tell you why. The reason is that it depends on what you like. If you want to see more of the animals and have it easier to see the animals, then the winter months is always better. And that's normally from around sort of end of May all the way until October. The reason why those months are good for animals is because it is very dry here. So the bush gets dead and the grass dies back, and it's much easier to see. And also there's not very much water, and so the animals congregate and go to water points where they can then drink and try and get water from there, and that brings prey and predators all to the same spot. Then you go into your spring months, and your spring months are amazing because the bush changes from this brown, dead, desolate environment to this lush, green, thick, beautiful place. And that's when you'll see a lot of kind of insects starting to come out, baby animals being born, and it really is a time of change. Then we go into the summer months, and that's when all our migratory birds come, and we've got lots of insects out, and it's very colorful. There's flowers everywhere, and it is a beautiful time of the year to see all the sort of beauty of insects and flowers and birds and those kind of things. And then we go into our autumn months, where everything sort of starts to get dry again, and so the animals start to become easier to find. So any time of the year is good. There's always something around to be seen, and we now are in the middle of our summer, and you can see we've got a beautiful male leopard here that we can watch. So it doesn't matter at the time of the year. You can come any time on a safari and you'll have things to see. And that's the best thing about the bush and being out here in Africa, is that we are so lucky that there are lots and lots of different types of animals. And even when it's the wet months, when we're getting lots of rain, we can still find things like leopards and lions and giraffes and elephants and these kind of things. So it really is a great place to be, and we're very lucky that we can have access to it any time of the year. We don't get big monsoons that close this place down and make it very difficult for us to move around. We do get big rainstorms, but generally we are able to drive every single day of the year. 365 days we can be out and in the bush and looking for animals, which is really very, very cool. Now you'll find every now and then you'll see his ears and his face and his coat twitching, and that's because there's lots of flies around at the moment. And this morning we had lots of flies all over us, and they'll be driving him crazy. The reason why flies are landing on him is for two reasons. One is because he's been eating meat, and so that smell will attract him. You know, if you leave a plate of food outside, then flies often will come and try and land on them. The other thing is that they're trying to get moisture off him, so they're trying to get bits of water, and they're getting that from his saliva around his mouth, around his nose area, and even from where his eyes are. And so that's why they land in those areas and drive him absolutely mad. Right, well, he's still sleeping, he's still taking it very easy, and so while I see if he's going to wake up and get moving, let's send you back to Scott and see what he's up to. I know he's driving around, but maybe he's found something interesting to show all of you.
Haven't found anything just yet, but we are heading towards a waterhole where maybe we'll get lucky and find some elephants taking a drink, or even if we're very lucky, they sometimes even swim. So no luck just yet, but it's a beautiful sunny day and enjoying driving around, keeping the breeze nice and cool for us. As soon as we stop the car, it starts getting quite warm. Now, where are the animals hiding? Oh, well, we found some elephant's poop. So, when you can't find the animals, at least if you can find their poop, you know that you're getting close. And what's interesting about the elephant's poop at the moment is that you can see that there's a few balls of fruit that are falling out of their poop. Here's another one over here. And they love these fruits. These are fruits from the marula tree. And what I'm sure you guys find interesting is that that fruit is still whole. The elephant's hardly eaten it, and the elephant's stomach hasn't done a very good job breaking the fruit down. And that is why elephants need to eat so much, because their stomachs don't get as much minerals and nutrients and vitamins as they need, because the food almost comes out the same way it went in, and elephants therefore need to eat huge amounts of food. And they are kind of the gardeners here in Africa. They do a lot of the gardening and make sure that the bush doesn't get too thick, because they eat sometimes around 300 or 400 pounds of plants, leaves, roots and grasses every single day. So that poop also looked fairly fresh, so hopefully they're not too far away. Hello Tanvi, you would like to know what is the difference between jaguars and leopards. And they're very similar, so they look the same, but jaguars are bigger than leopards, and where they have the black markings on their body with a kind of caramel brown colored center parts, they are much bigger. So the body is bigger, as are the spots on the jaguar, and they also don't live in the same areas where you get leopards. So you get leopards in Africa and India, but you do not get jaguars in those two places, only in South America. And they're a little bit different to leopards in that jaguars don't mind getting wet, nor do tigers, but most other big cats don't like water. But the jaguars and tigers are different with that. And I'm hoping that one day I'm going to be lucky enough to come and do some safaris in your country and get to see some tigers, the biggest of the big cats. I've never seen one in the wild yet. Okay, so we're about 5 minutes away from the little water hole, and it'll be interesting to see what's there. If there's no big animals taking a drink, maybe there'll be some birds. There was a family of geese with some little baby chicks last time I was there, so it'll be nice to see if they're still doing okay. So I'm sorry guys, I didn't explain very well to you what kind of fruit it was that you saw in the elephant dung. It's from a tree called the marula tree, and it's also the favorite tree that the leopards like to sleep in, because it's got nice big comfortable branches that are kind of on their sides, so easy for leopards to lie up there, and the leopards also like to take their food up there. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to find you some of the fruits of this tree. I know there's one up ahead of us, and they're also even quite nice for us to eat, so maybe I'll eat one for you guys. High in vitamin C, so very healthy for you, just like an orange. So I'm going to try and find you one of those fruits to show you about them and how tasty they are, and while I look for that, we'll send you back to Tristan and the leopard.
Well, we've just moved a little bit so we can try and see our male leopard's face a little better. He's having a really good nap now. Hopefully he'll start to wake up just now and maybe get us a view of his face, because he really does have a beautiful face with amazing eyes that looks through at you, and you kind of feel like he's slicing through you as he watches what you're doing. Now, I have to agree with Scotty. I would love to go and see tigers. We have one presenter that is with us that has seen tigers, and he says that they are absolutely amazing. So I think one day a trip to India would be really nice. And also, I would love to go up into the sort of northern reaches of Rajasthan and try and go and have a look at the leopards that hang around up there as well, which would be quite cool. So there's some amazing things in India as well as in Africa, and it's nice that there are some similarities, but I definitely agree with Scotty. A tiger would be an amazing thing to go and see. Now, if we came across this leopard and you were wondering why we're calling him a male and how we know he's a male, there's two things about him. One is that his size. He's much bigger than any of the females that we get. Leopards in the males generally are double the size than those of the females, so they're much larger than what the females are. And if you look underneath his chin, you'll see that he's got a flap of skin that is hanging on the ground there. That's called a dewlap. Now, the females don't get dewlaps, the males get them, and so that's another way that you can tell he is a boy. Right, now I'm going to hope that this male is going to look at us at some point, and while I hope for that, let's send you all the way across to the Masai Mara and my friend Brent, who's got some feathered friends to show you.
Oh, Murphy's Law. Beautiful little bird there. Grey kestrel disappeared, but there we've got a lilac-breasted roller. Welcome, everyone. My name is... Oh, they're all flying away from me today. It's quite windy. As I said, a big welcome to everyone. You haven't seen me yet. My name is Brent, and welcome on your very special school drive today. Now, can you believe I'm 1,600 kilometers away from Tristan and Scott? Now, that is further than if you had to drive from Mumbai to Delhi. So that's about 1,400 kilometers. So we're in Kenya, where there is Scott and Tristan in South Africa. So really nice to have you. And we don't have much at the moment. We've been looking for lions. We haven't had any luck. Hopefully before the end of your drive I can find you some lions, but they've been a bit scarce this morning, hiding in the long grass. Oh, hello, Palak. Palak would like to know, what is the difference between Asian and African elephants? Well, quite a lot. African elephants are quite a lot bigger than Asian elephants. Their ear shape and head shape is also different. As a general, we actually got two types of elephants in Africa. We have the savanna elephant, which I'm hoping we're going to find shortly. There were some around here earlier this morning, which is very big. And then we also have a smaller type of elephant called a forest elephant that lives in the jungles in Congo and places like that. Let's see. I'm pretty sure if I can't see an elephant from here, I might think about eating my hat. No, I'm not going to eat my hat, but I'm hoping I can spot an elephant from up here. There's normally big herds in this area. The wind is trying to take my hat from me at the moment. Oh, well, there we go. There's something. Oh, it's an ostrich. There's an ostrich. So, not an elephant, but an ostrich. There we go. Quite a few ostriches by the looks of things over there. So this is the world's biggest bird. You will not find a bigger bird than an ostrich. They can be more than 2 meters tall. They can run at about 70 kilometers an hour. Isn't that incredible? There we go. That is a male ostrich there. He's black. And there's some females off to the left. There we go. And they are grey. Nurwan is wondering, what is my favorite animal? Well, Nurwan, my favorite animal is the African wild dog. Tristan thinks he saw one, but we're not sure this morning. I think Tristan might have been seeing things. But that is my favorite animal. Now, in terms of behavior and an animal that you guys might know from India, their behavior is very similar to a dhow, which is the Indian version of a wild dog. They are a bit bigger and a bit more brightly colored, but you do have wild dogs in India. India is the only place in the world, as far as I'm aware, that has lions, tigers, elephants, wild dogs, two types of leopard, snow leopard, and of course the normal leopard. But it sounds like Scott's found an animal that you definitely don't get in India. Let's go have a look.
Two types of leopard, because there's two types in the normal.
Well, as you can see, we have found a hippopotamus, and all we can see are its nostrils, its nose on the left, its eyes in the middle, and its ears at the back, all perfectly lined up so that it can have the majority of its body under the water, and it can still see, smell, and listen. Well, they can hold their breaths for quite long, so if it does want to go under, it can hold its breath for about 2 or 3 minutes, which doesn't sound like a long time, but it is a very, very long time to hold your breath for. Not too much else here at the waterhole though, just the hippo, and my hopes to find you some elephants drinking have not come true. There's also 2 geese that are just on the water's edge there, and they used to have 3 little babies, and that was the last time we were here, so I'm not too sure what happened to the babies. Hopefully they haven't been eaten by something, but that does happen a lot out here. So whether some eagles or some big lizards called monitor lizards managed to catch the chicks, who knows, maybe a leopard. But sadly it looks like they are not around anymore. Vanish, you would like to know what animals are now extinct in Africa. Well, there's basically most of the main animals in Africa are still doing okay, but there's animals like rhino, for example, that could become extinct if we are not careful. And basically there's areas where animals have become extinct, so they're not extinct throughout Africa, but in some countries you don't find rhino anymore, for example, or there may not be any more lion or leopard in some African countries where they used to live before. And that's because us humans are having so many children and growing so quickly that there's very little space for the wild animals to live anymore. So we are slowly taking up all their homes, and that's one of the biggest problems. But in terms of animals that have gone extinct, there's some zebra that used to live in South Africa that no longer do. I can't really think of too many other important big animals. There's somebody just trying to call me on the radio quickly. Go ahead, Tax. Maybe they've got an exciting update for us. We all work as a team. But it just sounds like they are also looking for some elephants and are just hoping for any updates. Copy that. Thanks, Tex. Enjoy. So seeing as though we haven't had much luck here and there's still a few minutes left of the safari, I think we can keep on driving and see what we can find. Nisha, you would like to know what is the name of the jungle that we are in, and for us here in South Africa we don't really call this a jungle. We like to call areas where there's lots of very big trees jungles, so we call this the savanna. And this savanna area is called the Kruger National Park. So it's a very, very large national park that you can drive for 3 hours quickly in one direction and you won't even get to the other end of it. So it's a very, very big area for wild animals to live. Our signal's a bit shaky, so we're going to send you back to Tristan.
Well, and unfortunately, Scotty's got a few little technical issues where he is, and that's what happens when we're out live in the bush. And so you're back with us. You can see our leopard is wide-eyed now. He's got his eyes open and is just watching us as we kind of sit here. He's sort of taking everything in and just seeing what we're up to. Every now and then there's a bit of a breeze that's blowing, and that's what wakes him up. Now, Pawani, you want to know if I like this profession. So yes, I do. I love it. I love being out here every single day. It's amazing to be in the wilds of Africa, to be able to spend time with leopards and lions and elephants and all kinds of other animals, and then to be able to share it with all of you around the world. So, you know, not only you, but everybody else that watches our show that is in every different country that we have. And so I always enjoy the fact that we're able to share that and to be able to tell people and educate people about the wild of Africa and what goes on out here and how precious these wildlife areas are, because ultimately we're going to have a situation where they are being lost at a rate of knots, and we need to be able to protect them and look after them. So if we can show lots of people what's going on and educate them on the animals, well, that's very, very special. And hopefully one day maybe some of you will even end up being rangers or doing things like this in your country or even here in Africa. So that's the idea behind it. Right. Unfortunately, though, it's that time of the day where we're going to be finishing up. So we're going to be saying goodbye. It was an absolute pleasure to have you. I hope that you have a wonderful day at school and that you learn lots of things. We're going to leave you with a view of our leopard to finish. And for all of our regular viewers, thank you for joining us this morning, and we'll see you all this afternoon on our sunrise safari